They say there are doors in life that once opened can never be shut again. I'd heard that phrase before, brushed it off as just another overused cliché until the night I found myself lying in my mother's bed, breathing in the faint trace of her perfume, a mingling of lavender and warm summer skin. How did I end up here? How did the axis of my world tilt so violently that the one constant, the one unbreakable line I'd always trusted simply disappeared? If you've ever felt yourself drawn towards something you knew was off limits, something so forbidden it could splinter your entire existence, then you need to hear this. Stay with me, because this is not just about crossing a line. It's about watching that line vanish entirely. It began under the merciless August sun in northern Italy. The heat was more than just a number on a thermometer. It pressed against the body like a physical force, making the air shimmer above the asphalt, bending the horizon into a wavering mirage. My name is Adrian. I was 19 muscles aching under the weight of an absurdly oversized travel bag and a duffel crammed with gym gear I already knew I wouldn't use. My dark t-shirt clung to me like a damp second skin. Adrian, keep up. Her voice, my mother Eleanor, drifted back to me. Even in the sweltering heat, it carried an energy that demanded motion. She moved with the kind of poise that ignored weather entirely. Her sun-faded blonde hair pulled into a precise ponytail that bounced with each determined step. She looked impossibly composed in a crisp white linen shirt and tailored khaki shorts that showed off toned legs, sculpted by years of discipline I could never seem to emulate. I caught myself watching the sway of her hips steady, deliberate, almost like the pendulum of a clock. For 19 years, she'd been just Mom, the unshakable core of our small family of 2. Since my father had decided his future looked brighter with someone younger and less complicated, she had become both parent and powerhouse, the deputy director of a major construction firm. She juggled signed contracts and PTA meetings with equal precision, but here on the winding road to Lake Como, flanked by the high secretive walls of villas belonging to people whose names carried the weight of legend, she wasn't the director. She was simply Eleanor. And for the first time, I was seeing her as someone more than the role she played. We stopped at a towering iron gate, draped in blooming bougainvillea. The jingle of her keys was familiar, practiced. With a slow groan, the gate swung inward, revealing more than just a home. It was a sanctuary, a white gravel path curved through a landscape that could have been a painting, cypress trees standing like silent guards, leading to a sprawling terracotta villa, shaded by a deep front porch. An enormous oak table on the terrace seemed to promise long, wine-filled dinners. Everything was arranged with such meticulous care. It was almost intimidating. Inside, the heat vanished instantly, replaced by the cool breath of thick stone walls and polished marble floors. The air carried the scent of lemon polish and sun-warmed wood. Helena exhaled, not with exhaustion, but with something rarer. Contentment. I hadn't heard that sound from her in years. "I'm calling dibs on a shower," I announced, my voice echoing faintly in the grand hallway. "I think I'm melting," she laughed, really laughed, a rich, throaty sound that lit her eyes. "Go ahead. The outdoor one has the best view." I'll find something to eat. I nodded, grateful for the excuse to retreat. My guest room was a serene haven, French doors opening onto a balcony. Stripping off my sweat-soaked clothes, I wandered toward the back of the villa. The rear garden was simpler, an orderly vegetable patch, a weathered shed, and behind a fragrant wall of jasmine, a charming wooden structure, painted soft white. The outdoor shower. Curiosity tugged at me. I stepped closer. The door had 3 slim frosted glass panels, and a small shelf outside held plush, neatly folded towels. Peeking in, I saw the walls were tiled in warm, earthy mosaics that seemed to glow softly in the afternoon light. There was no shower head, just a simple brass control set into the tiled wall, hinting that the water would fall from the ceiling in a gentle cascade like rain. On the built-in shelves rested an assortment of sleek minimalist bottles, luxury bath gels, and shampoos whose understated packaging whispered expensive far louder than anything ornate ever could. Stepping back out into the soft light, I noticed Eleanor was no longer in sight. I figured she'd gone to the kitchen, so I made my way there, my empty stomach now an insistent ache. The house was hushed, the air cool against my skin as I crossed polished floors. My thoughts kept circling back to her, the woman who had raised me single-handedly, who'd worked herself to the bone without complaint, who'd never once indulged herself. This trip, a rare visit to her old friend's villa, was the first real escape I could ever remember her taking. She deserved it, the peace, the beauty, the luxury without noise. I was still lost in that thought when I pushed open the swinging kitchen door and nearly collided with her. She let out a sharp gasp, stumbling backward. Instinct kicked in. Years of sports had sharpened my reflexes, and I reached forward to steady her. But my hands didn't land where I expected. They found something else. Through the thin, cool linen of her shirt, my palms met the full, warm softness of her chest. The world seemed to halt, all motion suspended. In that fraction of a second, the universe contracted to a single, shocking point of contact. It was an accident, clumsy, unintended, but the jolt that ripped through me was like lightning. This wasn't the casual, thoughtless touch of a son catching his mother from a fall. It was something charged electric, a heat that flared instantly and dangerously. Her breath caught a small, sharp sound, and her body went taut under my hands. For a heartbeat that stretched unbearably long, neither of us moved. My brain screamed, "Let go, move your hands." But my limbs refused to obey. Her eyes, wide blue, startled, met mine. And there, under the shock, something flickered. An unspoken shift. Awareness, confusion, yes, but not only that. The spell broke. I yanked my hands away as if burned. Sorry, I croaked, my voice dry. I stumbled back, pulse pounding so violently, I was sure she could hear it. "I didn't see you there." Eleanor cleared her throat, gaze dropping to the tiled floor. She smoothed the front of her shirt in a quick, almost nervous gesture. "No harm done," she said, her tone a little too bright, a little too high. "I was looking for you. Thought we could check out that private cove Marco mentioned. Go for a swim." "Yeah," I said quickly, clinging to the lifeline of distraction. "Sounds good, just let me grab something to eat first." I busied myself at the massive, well-stocked fridge, my hands not entirely steady. I pulled out a piece of grilled chicken and a chilled bottle of water, chewing without tasting. No matter how hard I tried to dismiss it as nothing, the heat, the strangeness of a new place, I couldn't shake the gnawing truth. Something had shifted. Something I couldn't undo. The trail to the cove wound away from the manicured perfection of the villa and into the untamed hush of the woods. Here the air was cooler rich, with the scent of damp earth, crushed pine needles, and the faint sweetness of wildflowers hidden among the undergrowth. The molten glare of the day had melted into the warm, golden glow of late afternoon. Birds called overhead, their songs breaking the stillness. Between us, though, there was only silence, thick and weighted. My mind wouldn't stop. It replayed the moment in the kitchen on a relentless loop, the accidental touch, the heat, the undeniable softness. A battle raged inside me. One part, the son screamed forbidden. The other part of me, the 19-year-old man, was captivated. Elena I called, realizing she'd pulled ahead along the winding path. Her name felt strange in my mouth now, but calling her Mom felt stranger still. Wait up. She turned and my breath caught. She had changed. Gone were the practical khaki shorts and crisp linen shirt. In their place, she wore a thin, almost sheer, white slip dress, something sleeveless that fell to mid-thigh. It looked like something meant for the quiet privacy of a bedroom, not a walk through the woods. "What's wrong?" she asked. Tilting her head slightly, a faint crease forming between her brows. When she saw my expression, I swallowed, trying to sound casual. "Nothing. Just, isn't that your nightgown?" Her gaze flicked downward, and for the briefest moment, I saw something cross her face. Embarrassment, maybe. Then she gave a small shrug. "Oh, it was on top of my bag. It's so hot and it's comfortable." "Does it matter? There's no one out here but us." The question hung between us, like a test I couldn't answer. I just shrugged, keeping my mouth shut, not trusting my voice. We kept walking, but now every step was electric. I was hyper-aware of the way the soft fabric swayed with her movements, catching the dappled sunlight, filtering through the leaves, turning almost translucent in certain angles. My pulse thudded, slow and heavy in my ears. The trail opened suddenly, and the breath left my chest. Before us lay a small, hidden cove, a crescent of smooth grey pebbles, cradling water so clear it shimmered like liquid emerald. A weathered wooden pier jutted out a few yards, and beyond that, nothing but quiet. No houses, no boats, just stillness. "Well," she asked, turning toward me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Aren't you going in?" "What about you?" I asked, suddenly self-conscious. "I didn't bring a suit," she said, waving it off. Then, before I could reply, she stepped toward the pier. I watched her walk to the very end, her silhouette framed against the glittering water. Without a pause, she dove. The splash broke the silence. She surfaced moments later, slicking her hair back with both hands. And then I saw it, the nightgown transformed. The thin cotton, now soaked, clung to her, completely revealing every contour, every curve, every delicate shadow. It was no longer clothing, it was a second skin. My mouth went dry, my chest felt tight. I stripped down to my swim shorts without thinking, my body moving in a haze. Diving into the cold water was a mercy, shocking my senses, forcing air back into my lungs. When I surfaced, she was a few feet away, watching me with an unreadable expression. Ever had a moment like this, I wanted to ask. The kind that rewrites the rules, the kind you can't ever undo. Instead, I said, "This is nice," my voice sounding strained to my own ears. "It is," she murmured, running her fingers through her wet hair, the movement drawing the fabric tighter against her chest. She had to know how she looked. She had to. Her sigh was quiet, almost lost to the lapping water. "Adrian, I think you know there's been a tension between us since we got here." I just nodded, my throat too tight for words. "It's not right," she whispered, her gaze locked to mine. "We're mother and son. What happened in the kitchen? These feelings, they can't—" She trailed off, unable to finish. I found myself drifting closer, pulled by something I couldn't reason with. The water moved around us, the only barrier between our bodies. "Eleanor." I breathed her name. My hand rose of its own accord, fingers brushing her cheek, my thumb stroking the soft, damp skin. For one suspended, terrifying moment, the world stopped. Then she inhaled sharply and pulled back. "No." The word was firm, but her voice trembled. "We can't, Adrian. This is wrong." The moment shattered. A cold wave of shame hit me, deeper than the chill of the lake. "I'm sorry," I said quickly, unable to meet her eyes. "I don't know what—" "It's all right." She interrupted, her voice regaining some steadiness, though it still shook. "We're both tired. In a place like this, it's easy to get carried away. Let's just forget it happened." I nodded, clinging to the escape she offered, though it felt like a lie. We swam back to the pier in heavy silence, each stroke thick with the weight of everything unspoken. The weight of what had almost happened clung to us like damp air. As we climbed out of the water, I couldn't stop my eyes from straying to her. The soaked nightgown still molded to her like a second skin, leaving nothing to the imagination. A sharp stab of guilt sliced through me, followed almost instantly by something darker, hotter. "I think I'll head back," Elena said, wringing water from her hair without meeting my gaze. "I'll start dinner. You stay and swim if you want." I watched her walk away, bare feet, soundless on the pier, her figure growing smaller with each step. A reckless part of me, deep and dangerous, wanted to call her back, to erase the distance, to finish what we'd almost begun. But I knew she was right. That was a line you didn't cross. With a sigh, I dove back into the cool water, swimming lap after lap, as though I could burn the thoughts out of my head. But the harder I pushed, the clearer it became something between us had cracked. And in its place, something far more dangerous had taken root. This wasn't just a vacation anymore. It was a crucible. That night, sleep came in fits and starts, haunted by flashes of her, standing at the end of the pier, cutting through emerald water, rising like a vision with the soaked cotton clinging to every curve. I could still feel the phantom heat of her skin beneath my palms from our kitchen collision. I knew it was wrong. The rational part of me, the one shaped by years of rules and boundaries, knew it was the ultimate taboo. But in the darkness, with only the chirp of cicadas and my own racing heartbeat for company, the reasons seemed to fade. Morning arrived too quickly. Sunlight spilled through the curtains, and from downstairs came the faint clink of cutlery, the rich aroma of coffee. I braced myself for a day of pretending nothing had changed. Yet somewhere inside me, a treacherous voice hoped normal was the last thing either of us wanted anymore. She stood at the counter back to me, humming softly as she sliced ripe peaches. The light blue summer dress she wore swayed around her knees, simple yet graceful. "Morning," I said, my voice still rough from sleep. She turned with a smile that didn't quite meet her eyes. "Good morning, Adrian. Sleep well?" Like a rock, I lied, pouring myself coffee. We ate breakfast on the terrace in silence. Except it wasn't silence. It was the heavy presence of yesterday sitting between us, like an unseen guest. I kept glancing at her, noting the way the light caught the golden streaks in her hair, the elegant curve of her neck as she sipped from her cup. "We should explore today," she said suddenly. "There's a trail up the mountain behind the villa. The view is supposed to be incredible. Sounds good?" I agreed, grateful for something, anything that could break this tension. For just a moment, our eyes locked. I thought I saw relief there. But maybe a shadow of disappointment too. "Exactly," she said, looking away. "Fresh air will do us both good." The forest was alive in the morning light. Crisp, cool air filled my lungs, and for a time the steady rhythm of walking helped. One step after another, it was simple grounding. But midway up a steep stretch, she slipped on a loose stone. I lunged, without thinking, my arm wrapping around her waist to steady her. Her body was warm and solid against mine. She caught her breath, and I held on just a fraction too long before releasing her. "Sorry," I muttered, my gaze fixed firmly on the ground. "It's fine," she said softly, her voice a touch unsteady. "Thank you." We kept going, but the fragile spell of physical exertion had broken. The air between us thickened again, humming with unspoken things. Every accidental brush of our hands sent a jolt through me. When we reached the summit clearing, the lake stretched out below, a vast sapphire expanse, speckled with tiny boats. Elena walked to the edge arms, folding loosely across her chest, as the wind pressed her dress against her frame. Sunlight tangled in her hair, turning it to a halo. "Isn't it beautiful?" she asked, turning toward me with a genuine, open smile. "Beautiful," I said, my eyes fixed not on the view but on her. Her smile faltered slightly, as if she felt the weight of my gaze. The air thickened heavy with all we weren't saying. For a long moment, we just stared at each other, the world falling away, until it was only us, standing above everything. She was the first to break away, clearing her throat. We should head back. It's getting late." The walk back down the hill was a slow, excruciating descent into silence. Neither of us spoke, lost in the labyrinth of our own thoughts. When the villa appeared between the gaps in the trees, she suddenly stopped. Turning to me, her voice wavered. "Ethan." I froze. My pulse quickened. I already knew what was coming. "We need to talk about this." "Do we?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She gave a tense nod, drawing in a deep, shaky breath. What's happening between us? It's not right. We can't keep pretending it doesn't exist. I know I said quietly, stepping closer. But I can't change how I feel, Claire. She closed her eyes, and a look of raw pain crossed her face. Neither can I. God help me. Neither can I, but Ethan, we're mother and son. We can't. We just can't. I moved another step nearer until only inches separated us. The tears in her eyes caught the fading light, shimmering like the lake far below. Can't we? I whispered. I've never felt this way about anyone before. Her blue eyes lifted to meet mine, a swirling storm of conflict and longing. Ethan, please, don't do this to us. But she didn't back away. She didn't retreat. We stood suspended in a fragile moment, strung tight with tension. I could feel the heat of her skin, smell the lavender and pine tangled in her hair. Slowly, deliberately, I leaned in, giving her every possible chance to stop me, to turn away, to end this. Our lips touched. It wasn't a clash. It was a hesitant, trembling question. For a heartbeat, she remained still. Then a soft, broken sound escaped her, melting into a sigh as she kissed me back. It was like a dam breaking. The tension, the stolen glances, the forbidden thoughts of the past 2 days crashed into a flood of raw sensation. The kiss deepened, turned hungry, desperate. My hands found her waist, drawing her against me. Her fingers tangled in my hair, holding me as if letting go would destroy her. It was a kiss of discovery and defiance, of longing and fear. When we finally broke apart, our foreheads rested together, our breath uneven. Her lips were swollen, her eyes wide with desire, shock, and something dangerously close to surrender. We shouldn't have done that, she whispered, though her hands were still gripping my shirt. But we did. I murmured, my voice hoarse. My thumb traced the curve of her cheekbone. And I want to do it again. She closed her eyes and leaned into my touch. This is so wrong, Ethan. So wrong, I asked softly. Does it feel wrong? My lips brushed her temple, tracing slow, questioning kisses along her jaw. A shiver ran through her. Her hands clutched my shoulders tighter. No, she admitted, barely audible. God help me. It feels right. We stayed there for a long time, wrapped in each other as the afternoon light bled into dusk. The line we had crossed lay behind us, invisible but irreversible. The world beyond felt far away, its rules and condemnations muffled. What do we do now? I asked. Her gaze lifted to mine, her face a tangle of emotions. I don't know, but no one can ever know about this. Ever. I understand, I said, my voice steady. It will be our secret. A sad smile touched her lips. She cupped my face. Our secret, she echoed, before pulling me into another kiss, longer, deeper, sealing the vow. We walked back to the villa hand in hand. In just days, everything had shifted. The rest of our holiday no longer felt like an ordinary trip, but a hidden world filled with dangerous possibilities I had never dared to imagine. That night, tangled together in the sheets of her bed, the moonlight striping our bodies in silver, I wondered how we could ever return to our lives after this. But when she nestled closer in her sleep, her head on my chest, I let those thoughts drift away. For now, I chose to live inside this fragile, beautiful, forbidden world we had made. What would you have done is a secret like this? A sacred bond or a terrible curse? I still don't have the answer. And I suspect I'll be asking myself that question for the rest of my life. Thank you for listening. If our story moved, you share it. The following morning, the air felt heavier, as if the villa itself was aware of what had happened within its walls. Sophia moved quietly through the kitchen, her robe, loosely tied hair falling in messy waves over her shoulders. She didn't look at me at first, only poured 2 cups of coffee, the silence between us stretching thin. When she finally did meet my eyes, it wasn't the same look as yesterday. It was softer, but burdened, like she had aged years overnight. James, we have to be careful. From this moment on, every word, every glance, every movement has to mean nothing to anyone else but us. I nodded, knowing she was right. Out there in the world, beyond these stone walls and pine trees, there was no space for what we had shared. But here it still existed. We spent the rest of that morning walking by the lake, our fingers brushing occasionally, but never fully intertwining. The sky was a pale blue, the water glassy and calm, a perfect liar, hiding the chaos beneath its surface. Every time she smiled at me, I felt that pull again, the same one that had destroyed the line between us. By the time we returned to the villa, our laughter had returned, but it was a different kind, quieter, guarded. That night, we didn't touch. Not because we didn't want to, but because we both knew we were already standing too close to the edge. Years later, I can still taste that summer on my lips. The lavender, the pine, the quiet crackle of something dangerous. I've lived 1,000 days since, but none quite like those. We never spoke of it again, not even in whispers. Yet. It's the loudest memory I carry. Some loves burn fast and bright, leaving you breathless in their glow. Others hide in the shadows, surviving on glances and half-finished sentences. Ours was both a star that should never have been born, yet still managed to leave its light behind. If you've ever had a secret that changed you, you'll understand. Some doors once opened don't close. And sometimes you're not sure you want them to.